Hello, folks. Hello, folks. Hello, folks. This is Jeff with some comments on as we go through our quoting series. This tends to be the most interesting ideas that I'm gravitating toward right now. Would be the quotes, best of quotes, because there's literally just seems like millions of them that are fantastic and deserve to be talked about. So, first of all, it has nothing to do with this, but I'm going to put up this. This is important. This is the Milwaukee Brewers. This is the Brewers starting their season in a few weeks. They started their preseason yesterday, and so it's certainly a sign of spring to come. But now to the quotes. I found an interesting piece on the 20 best Christopher Hitchens quotes. And these are from his books, from his writings, from his, all kinds of sources, from speeches. First one is, what can be asserted without proof can be dismissed without proof. So in other words, it's the old, if you can't be reasoned into something, then you can't be reasoned out of it. Sort of that kind of idea that we're in this slippery slope with no logic used. If we say, yeah, I believe that I was made in the image of my God, how can you prove that? How can you actually, you can't scientifically prove it. It's a leap of faith. The only position that leaves me with no cognitive dissonance is atheism, he says. This is a quote from Hitchens, the late Christopher Hitchens. It is not a creed. Death is certain, replacing both the siren song of paradise and the dread of hell. Life on this earth, with all its mystery and beauty and pain, is then to be lived far more intensely. We stumble and get up. We are sad, confident, insecure, feel loneliness, joy, and love. There's nothing more, but I want nothing more. That's a lot of ideas in there. By trying to adjust to the findings that it once tried so viciously to ban and repress, religion has only succeeded in restating the same questions that undermined it in earlier epochs. What kind of designer or creator is so wasteful and capricious and approximate? What kind of designer or creator is so cruel and indifferent? And most of all, what kind of designer or creator only chooses to reveal himself to semi-stupefied peasants in desert regions? There was a sort of a funny... So in his speeches, he has a way of being ironic, and you're not quite sure if he's totally serious or whether he's being sarcastic sometimes in his responses. But one of the, I think it's one of the YouTubes, the best of Christopher type stuff, where he says that, why would Jesus be born in the time that he was, and it doesn't make sense that he would reveal himself to peasants and that sort of thing. So what he's saying is that there are a lot of things that don't make sense with regard to why Jesus would show up in a certain place in time, and why there are so many contradictions in the Bible, and why God would wait so long to have somebody come to earth and have us wallow through the caveman times and wallow through other epochs of time without saving us sooner. And so he's basically making the case for that doesn't make logical sense when you think of it in its totality of this savior type thing. Another quote he made in one of his books: the person who is certain and who claims divine warrant for his certainty belongs now to the infancy of our species. So when somebody who is religious states to you that you are going to hell and there's no doubt about it, and you can't reason that out of anybody. You can't reason that out of him. So what he's saying here is that for somebody who's so certain that they cloud out any nuance that they cloud out any question or uncertainty in their mind, and they just say it's black or white. What he's saying is that's the most dangerous kind of thinking, and that belongs to the infancy of our species, the caveman rather than the advanced man. What happens to the faith healer and the shaman when any poor citizen can see the full effect of drugs or surgeries administered without ceremonies or mystifications? Roughly the same thing as happens to the rainmaker when the climatologist turns up, or to the diviner from the heavens when school teachers get a hold of elementary telescopes. So in other words, he's saying, drawing this line between scientific thinking and spiritual thinking, that it is spiritual thinking is totally a different kind of thing than scientific thinking, and this is what I personally believe is this is what we're evolving to, is more of a scientific type of awareness. And as philosopher Sam Keen says, we don't have to lose the sacred when we're going to the scientific. That is the key. Don't lose the sacred when going toward the scientific. We're going to have to cover this in two parts because there's just so many quotes here. A couple more. The great Christopher Hitchens once said, the Bible may, indeed does, contain a warrant for trafficking in humans, for ethnic cleansing, for slavery, for bride price, and for discriminate massacre, but we're not bound by any of it because it was put together by crude, uncultured human mammals. So this is religion as the product of man, not man as the product of God. And in one of his speeches he says, when one thinks of religion as a concoction of man, things suddenly turn on a more clear perspective. If God really wanted people to be free of wicked thoughts, he would have taken more care to invent a different species. Okay, so he's admitting in the great deficiencies of human beings having negative thoughts. He's admitting to that and saying, well, if somebody is created in the image of God, then why aren't people better? Which is a question that a third grader would ask, and Christopher's not afraid to ask it in adult circles at all. One more. Religion has run out of justifications thanks to the telescope and the microscope. It no longer offers an explanation of anything important. Where once it used to be able, by its total command of worldview, to prevent the emergence of rivals, it can now only impede and retard, or try to turn back the measurable advances that we have made. Sometimes, true, it will artfully concede them, but this is to offer itself the choice between irrelevance and obstruction, impotence or outright reaction. And given this choice, it's programmed to select the worst of the two. Meanwhile, confronted with undreamed-of vistas inside our own evolving cortex, in the farthest reaches of the known universe, and in proteins and acids which constitute our nature, religion offers either annihilation in the name of God, or else the false promise that we take a knife to our foreskins, or pray in the right direction, or ingest pieces of wafer, we shall be saved. So a lot in that comment. But what he's really saying again is this dramatic paradigm shift that must take place for a more rational, compassionate world, a more humanistic world, if you will, that values reason and compassion versus magical thinking and miracles. The concept of miracle, that's something we could spend a lot of time on. Because I still believe in the wonder of the universe, that the fact that we still have so much to learn and we need to be humble. There's so much out there that we don't know, that even a good scientist has to have healthy respect for what we do not know. And look what astronomy is learning about alternate universes, and when we go and look at the molecular level of life, how the paradigms change, how light is seen as something that could be absorbed by a black hole, which actually would change our sense of time. It's just an amazing group of new questions that science can create, and the fear to confront such questions is probably one of the biggest weaknesses of religion, is that it does not embrace the questions. Like the Bible study group that I was a part of a couple of years ago, when I mentioned Carl Sagan and the wonder of the universe, there was a sharp turn away from what I was saying in the room. People ignoring what I said, trying to shift the subject as quick as possible, and sweep it under the rug. So we have a lot to learn about openness and tolerance of new ideas. I'll leave it at that, and there's more quotes to come in part 2 of Christopher Hitchens' quotes.